Hey, good evening once again. Coming in here for Saturday night and had a little bit of shower activity in this part of Texas. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little bit of rain coming down there in the distance, and we've had that kind of on and off this evening. Pretty high base though. And we're just basically getting a cold front pushing southward through the state. And not any deep moisture or anything like that. Most of that is confined to West Texas. And this is a live radar image showing the activity out there. And that's about all that we have in West Texas, basically west of Midland, out to the Pecos region. And let's check out just how severe these storms are. First off, we can see the very intense pressure gradients. Well, not very intense, but they're confined to the south side of the storm, so maybe a little bit of an indication of a little bit of severity. Then we go up to higher tilts. And we did this a little bit last night, and we can see the core of that storm is right there. We backed that off to 0.5, and not a whole lot of overhang. What I would really like to see for this to be severe is for overhang to be confined kind of like to this area here. And do we have that? No, not really, not today. So that's kind of the characteristic of all these other storms, and we'll take a quick look at the storm relative velocity. Not showing really anything particularly intense, kind of a very strongly separated couplet right there. We have to keep in mind the radar is to the east-northeast here. So we've got a little bit of outbound here and a little bit of inbound. So kind of some very moderate rotation here in this part of the storm. So we're talking about on the order of maybe 50 knots across maybe 3 or 4 miles. And not much else going on for the other storms, really. There's that storm down in the Pecos River region. Showing just a little bit of stronger intensity down here on the very edge. Place the marker there, and not much going on there. Okay. So I'm going to show you something a little bit different. I've got some historical data loaded up. So if y'all think you know what day this is for, feel free to mention it. This is a major historical tornado day. So we're starting out here at 12Z. We've got a upper level low over Kansas and southern Nebraska. We've got a bit of a trough over Texas and some ridging out over the Midwest. So if we go back to our basics, we keep in mind that the trough is down here and the ridge is up here. We're going to place that front kind of in this area right here. There's the upper level jet running from about Midland up to Little Rock and up to Chicago. And we find the surface front about halfway between the downstream ridge and the upstream trough. So this is a preliminary placement here. So we know right off the bat this is probably going to be affecting this area right here, somewhere in the Mississippi or Ohio region, River Valley. And let's look at the surface data here. Maybe I'll zoom that out just a little bit. Okay, then I'm going to add the counties. And just to make it a little bit easier to follow, I'm going to add the highways. And then I'll go ahead and lock that all together. And we'll plot the surface data here. So let me change the active level. And there we go. So the first thing we would want to look for is the moisture axis. See lots of 60s along in east of the Mississippi River region. So I'm seeing a few 70s in this area right here, and the 65-degree line is going to run something like this here. So it looks like our moisture axis is kind of in this region right here. So roughly from just west of Nashville up to west of Indianapolis. And then boundaries. I see actually a little bit of a dry line coming into Arkansas. And I should mention that this is the 16Z map. This is about 10 in the morning. And we see down there at Longview 36 at 10 a.m. Looks like a bit of a dry line coming into North Arkansas and maybe Missouri right there. And then we've got a cold front coming into Oklahoma, kind of like that. And let's see, do we have a warm front out west? Well, this is where we do that imaginary car drive, and we go from south to north, 79, 77, 76, and then we drop to 72, 66, and then 70. Very sharp drop off through here. So let me draw very quickly that transition zone. I think I'm going to go something like that for now. So that'll be just a rough idea of where our frontal boundary is right there. Okay. I'm going to take a look at chat, see if anybody has any guesses here. And let's see, you got Sue and Mark here, and Mike, Fun with Tech, is here. Adam Davis, Ron Chalfont, and Ahmed, Ryan Toomies. Ryan's asking about the storm tops. The storm tops, yeah, I'll go over really quickly and check that out. Looking at about 35, yeah, probably about 38 to 39,000 feet on those storms there. Okay, I think Mike Estwick has nailed this. April 3rd of 74. And Adam and Ryan agreeing on that too. Eddie W. checking in, and a couple of suggestions, maybe the tri-state tornado. But yeah, it's the April 3rd outbreak. Brett Dean says 25 degrees there in southern Jersey. And Adam says so many big outbreaks over the region during the decades. Yeah, that's definitely true. So there's the May 3rd outbreak, and you can kind of see the area that it covered. Basically everywhere from Atlanta to Huntsville, north through the Nashville, Lexington area, and all the way up through Indiana into southern Michigan right there. And this is a satellite photo a little bit later during the day, about 4 to 5 hours after the surface data. We can see that dry line is pushed off pretty quickly to the east. Probably located something like that. The cold front has held back pretty far, but the warm front, it looks like that's a major factor with some of these storms, picking up the storm out of helicity through that area around Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and so on. But certainly some good helicity south of that boundary too. Okay, so let's switch over to today's data. 500 millibar chart showing nothing like that, just more ridging, ridge to the west and trough to the east. Here's our polar front jet from Alberta down to Chicago. And we're getting some of this ridging starting to build into the central U.S. But we have a new system coming on shore near British Columbia. That's going to change our weather around the beginning of next week. This is a look back earlier today, looking in New Mexico and West Texas. At the very start of the day, we just had this one little cluster near the Davis Observatory. Not much showing in New Mexico itself. And here we can see some transverse bands, a little bit of low cloud with that cool flow pushing out of the northeast through West Texas. And as the day went on, we got a little bit of cloud development along the mountains near east of Alamogordo. And then the very last polar orbiter frame we have that's going to be the one right there. So a little bit of activity down near Marfa, Marathon, and then we have these storms coming together, these towers coming together around the Hobbs area, and then we pick that up with this animation here. And I'll run that forward for you. And you can watch this area and see those storms quickly coming together and moving south through the Hobbs and Carlsbad area. And so those shifted southward, and now we have them out in the I-20 area. Okay, we'll do the thermal analysis here real quick. Very well-defined thermal gradient through the eastern and north-central U.S. So there we go. We bring the cold front all the way onto the Gulf Coast and then up along the Front Range, kind of like that. And it does show up a little bit better on the 1,000 through 850 millibar analysis right through here. Okay, let's check out the soundings. Let's check out Fort Worth. This looks like this morning's data. And I hit refresh, and now we have the evening data. So you see that little layer there of northerly flow from the surface up to about 4,000 feet. Kind of a weak frontal inversion there at the top of the layer. And as far as elevated convection, which we do have going on right now, we can kind of paint that out there on the Fort Worth sounding. Not much CAPE associated with that, maybe about 500 to 700 joules per kilogram, but enough to get some showers going there. So that's the way you do it. You build these elevated layers, and you can use most unstable CAPE where that's available to try to find where that's going to happen. Mixed layer CAPE is not going to help you because that's going to mix in this lower layer with this dry air. And surface-based CAPE is not going to help either because that's at the surface and that's dry also. Okay, then we'll take a look at the dynamics here. This is the 500 millibar heights and vorticity. And check out what's happening right here around the Seattle area. See that little lobe of higher vorticity coming on shore? That kind of flattens out the ridge, and then we see it moving southeast tomorrow and Monday into the plains. And that's going to have an effect around Monday and Tuesday as it starts hooking up with some of the moisture down in our area. A little bit of ridging in behind that, and another little trough coming on shore. Coming in for later in the week. That's going to affect mostly the Great Lakes region. And then things get kind of stormy there on the West Coast next week. Around the, we're talking about 8 or 9 days from now, about the 22nd, 23rd. And we can see that that's going to come out into the Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas area. So we'll be watching for a chance of severe weather about then. Okay, so I think we're about ready to head into the forecast, and we're going to use the NAM for the prognosis here. So let me get that set up and take another look at chat. A little bit of discussion between a few of our viewers here in Indiana. And Ryan or Brett says 60,000 is a big storm. Yeah, 60,000. I think probably the highest that I've seen is about 74,000, and that was when I was in the Philippines. There was a FPS-8 radar, I think, the operator there. I was actually in the weather station when I was a kid hanging out, bothering the Air Force people there, and we had a storm out just south of the base, and they ran the range height indicator on that, and yeah, 74,000. But they get pretty high out in the tropics because of the very high tropopause. Okay, so going forward overnight, you can see that cold front kind of push southward, and this convection out in West Texas will be shutting down. There goes the front out into the Gulf of Mexico, and up to the north, here comes this next system. This is associated with that upper air wave coming out of Washington. See if I run that back. There it is right there, and you can see it cross the Rockies very quickly and then work down this frontal boundary right through here. So that's going to take aim on the Ohio Valley. There's a little bit of a front right there, and we're going to get a little bit of snow back in north of that, along and north of Indianapolis there. But the big story is going to be along the East Coast with this next, this other part of the system just off the coast. That's going to be working up the coast. And there we go. You can see that as that moves up towards the Long Island, New England area, we're going to see probably some heavier snow further inland up in upstate New York and New England. But that'll be a fairly fast-moving system, and it will be out of the picture by Wednesday. And cold air advection back in behind that right there, sweeping southward. Then for the long-term picture, we're going to have to switch to the GFS. Just checking messages here real quick. Okay. Let's head to the GFS. We're going to start this out towards the end of the week. And things look pretty quiet, just high pressure across the Midwest and warm air advection picking up through the Great Plains. Then we're going to get that next wave crossing the northern Rockies, pretty much the same path, and there we go. It's going to move southeastward. So we're going to get another cool down here in this part of Texas next weekend around the 18th or 19th. A repeat of snow for northern Indiana, northern Illinois. Then more fair weather and some high pressure moving back in behind that right there. Next big weather maker looks like that's going to be around the 24th or 25th. That's going to come into the Texas area. You can see it looks like it's digging pretty far south into northwestern Mexico. And we will watch that for severe weather. Looks like next weekend, not next weekend, but the weekend after that, the 25th. And this is about 360 hours out, so really a lot could change between now and then. We'll just have to kind of wait and see over the next week, and after that we should have a better idea what that's going to do. All right, so I think that's about all I have for today. I appreciate you watching, and hopefully we'll see you all next week. Thanks. Or not next week. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you, tonight is daylight savings time, so don't forget that. And I will be taking a break tomorrow, so I'm not going to be back till Monday. So 48-hour break, and then we will see you after that. Okay, guys, thanks. Appreciate it.